Attempt number 2 at today's live stream. If you're watching this for a second time, I appreciate it. If you're watching for the first time, you have no idea what I'm talking about, and that's for the better. We're hoping for no technical difficulties this time. Your mind is for generating ideas, not storing them. Understanding that has really changed my life, and especially the way I think and the way I utilize my thoughts. Now, I want to touch on, or piggyback rather, on what I was talking about last week regarding creative expression and why I choose creativity to express myself and the power that is in that. If you're trying to tackle difficult conversations, if you're having a hard time talking about a specific topic with people, try writing everything down before having the conversation. What I mean by that is if there's a topic that you really want to broach with someone, or a conversation you really want to have, take your thoughts and your opinions, your ideas, everything about it out of your mind, out of the mind space, and put it on paper. Do an idea dump, a brain vomit, mind vomit, everything out. And then turn it into something creative. For me, I use poetry. Why? Because poetry allows me to get as specific as I possibly can when communicating about an idea. I distill my mind down to the essence of what the thing is. And because it's a poem, it allows it to be fun. I write poetry that I would like to hear. I write poetry that if someone else were to be reading it, if someone produced the poem that I wrote and I heard it, I'd be like, wow, I wish I'd written that. But seriously, and then if you tackle that topic in a conversation with a person, you're going to be much more eloquent and specific and articulate in how you talk about that subject because you've taken the time to take it out of the mind space, out of the ether, and you put it to the page. And now you can talk about it more easily. Fact. Now, in addition, like I said about generating ideas and not storing ideas, you don't know what idea can change your life. You may have 10 ideas a day that if you actually implemented them, if you took them out of the mind space and wrote them down, not necessarily for a creative expression, but just literally took it out of your mind and put it to paper, and if you acted on that idea, developed it, your whole life could change. But all too often, thoughts come and go, come and go. We never act upon them. One of the aspects of my Parrhesia program is creative expression, communication through creativity. And I don't touch on it that much when I'm promoting it or when I'm marketing, when I'm talking about it, because I feel like it's like the bonus of what you get from the course. People are drawn to the course because they want to tackle that difficult conversation. They want to reach their friends and family primarily. They want to find their voice. They want to be able to be composed and contain themselves and their emotions and speak freely and not get caught up in their head or whatever. But beyond that, I preach creative expression because I'm living proof that utilizing creativity can change your life and improve your communication. A lot of people don't think they're artistic. They don't have a creative nature, which I disagree with 100%. Anyone can be an artist. Everyone is an artist if they actually allowed it to be. The thing that gets in most people's way is they don't have the time or they don't think they're good enough. They haven't put in any time on the front end so that they can produce it now. People won't be interested, all that self-doubt, all that. But think about it like this. If there's a story that you've thought about that you could write, if there's a poem, a song you could write, if there's a painting that you'd like to paint and you don't produce it, if you don't create it, it will never get created. And that's pretty selfish. That means you're going to take that idea to your grave. You're never going to experience the fruits of your labor, and no one else will either. That to me is tragic. That's really sad. We all have a library of material that we could realize if we gave it expression, if we found our voice with it. And you'd be giving a gift to others. Who knows? You could change the world. if you really tapped into your creative potential. I had a student in the second season of my class who is an athlete his whole life, a jock, an alpha male. He came into the class wanting to better communicate, as we all do. And I created the course in 2020. So a lot of people who have been drawn to the course have been drawn in because they want to be able to talk about things like mandates and passports. And he ended up tapping into his creativity through the poetry outlet and became a phenomenal poet. And he'd be the first one to tell you that he had no creative background. He didn't think of himself as an artist. He definitely didn't think of himself as a poet. And now he loves the process and is producing enviable poetry. And he just published his first book last week. Now, I'm not going to take credit for that, but I do think I had a hand in that development, in his process. And I would safely say he would probably agree with me that I gave him the opportunity to create. It unlocked something he didn't know was there. And he's now working it to the point where he's excited and he's producing actual real life content for others. At best, what you create can reach people in ways that your conversations cannot. And at the very least, it'll make you feel better because it's therapeutic to have a creative outlet and to get some of this stuff out. And you can produce it in a way that other people who think like you find relief in what you produce. That's the most likely outcome. Sometimes you can bridge the gap with people who are otherwise unreachable, but you can provide a place for others to feel good because you are expressing something creatively that they themselves are also thinking. That's how I've built my entire resume. That's where I'm at. That's why you're here right now, is because I lean into my creative potential. And you can too. Beyond that, for example, I have a poem that I wrote years ago called Hands, which is all about vaccinations. Actually, a real story. A friend of mine has a child who is autistic, and she has a blog documenting her whole experience with him, and I turned it into a poem. So it's a true story. And the poem started off as a one-off joke. Before I decided to make it about her story, I made it up a one-line joke that I thought I could do to be funny at a conference when I was presenting. And the joke was, once upon a time, a friend of mine decided not to vaccinate her child, and her child turned out just fine. Good night, everybody. That was the joke. That's what I wrote. And I wrote it, and I thought, man, there could be something more here. I could juxtapose that with something real. And that ended up turning into this pretty epic poem, true story from my friend's blog. And it's probably my best poem, let's be honest. And it has done multiple things. One, I've had people reach out to me online as well as in person numerous times saying, thank you for sharing that. That is my story. Men and women, mothers and fathers, all over the world have come to me saying, thank you for sharing that. So that piece provided a place, provided something that people could relate to, that made them feel better, not so alone in their struggle. Beyond that, people have used that poem to get through to people in their family. They maybe have had conversations about vaccinations and they've gone nowhere. Maybe they end up in screaming fights. Then they show them that poem, and because it's not them saying it, but it's me, who they don't know at all. It's just a video of some guy online eloquently reciting a poem, and that has helped them get through to their family about the potential dangers of vaccinations. And this has happened several times. So it does two things. It's relatable for those who are like-minded, and it also can provide a bridge to those who otherwise wouldn't want to hear it. And it also can work personally. So That same poem was a part of a set that I did a few years ago. And Sonia, my wife, and I, we were having a holiday with family members a few years ago. And I don't want to get too specific, but we were at odds in our conversations all throughout this weekend that we were spending together. And we care about these people. They're family. You know, we don't, even though we don't agree on much, we enjoy each other's company and we love each other, but we just could not get on the same page. So we decided to have a creative share night. And this family member, he likes to write and he's a novelist. Of course, I write poetry. Sonia writes beautiful songs that should be online. And we had this share. We all shared our different pieces, and I shared my poetry set. And I was kind of nervous going in because obviously, those of you who know my work, some of the poems could be considered controversial by people who don't agree necessarily with where I'm coming from. But at the end of it, and again, because it's a poetry set, because it's an artistic expression, you really can't argue with it. You can't interject. You can't interrupt. You don't struggle with what you're going to say because it's already there. It is cemented. It is a thing. And when it was over, he said, "Your poetry scratched an itch in my subconscious. You put to words something that's there that I haven't been able to put words to, an intuition." It's a huge win. So I was speaking to that part of him that knows I'm onto something, but he's never actually given himself the opportunity to think about it or to articulate it, to let his thoughts come through. And I was able to do that for him. And it did heal the whole weekend. We were able to have fun together. It was such a pressure release valve. And they were able to hear the poetry without arguing with me. Huge win. So, yeah, I think that's primarily what I wanted to touch on. Again, Parrhesia Season 6. This is the last season. Registration just opened yesterday. It will only be open for 1 week. I want you involved. And one of the added bonuses, perhaps the best thing, in my opinion, about what happens with the program is giving people that outlet to express. And the reason why I've called this Let Your Subconscious Be Your Guide and the gold between your ears. This is something I wouldn't have been able to articulate a few years ago or wouldn't even known a few years ago. But after doing this for multiple years now, when someone writes a poem in my class, so often it's for other people. In fact, it's more often than not, it's for others. But people often write exactly what they themselves need to hear for them to improve their own lives. Our subconscious provides us with the information that we need to improve. Our subconscious provides us with what we need to get out of a depression, to get out of a rut, to move through it, to overcome it. Just a couple weeks ago in my class, I said, you should say this poem to yourself in the mirror. You should sing this song to yourself in the mirror because this is exactly what you need to hear. You're searching for meaning. You're trying to find motivation to take action. You just wrote it. You thought it was for others, and it is, but it's also for you. Your subconscious will tell you exactly what you need to do to move through any rut you're in or to overcome any obstacle you're facing. If you let it come out, if you let your creative expression be realized. It's a beautiful thing. You have all the answers. You are your own savior. I like to say you are your higher self. I also say you are your inner child. So often people are searching to get back in touch with their inner child. Who's your inner child? You. You are your inner child. You are a child, just grown up. The childlike part of you is playful, explores things, doesn't get all depressed and weird and self-conscious. It's you without all the baggage. That's you. You are your inner child. You are your higher self. Your higher self is just the version of you that you know you can be if you just clear out some of that haze, those cobwebs, that muck, that self-doubt, or the overwhelming discouragement you feel because the world is too crazy. The world is always crazy. Always. If you read accounts from literally any point in history. There's always going to be a certain perspective, a certain percentage of people who are saying, this is as bad as it gets. It can't get any worse than this. We're all doomed. Any year, any century, any millennia, someone is saying that. Yeah, things are bad. Things are also amazing. And you can contribute to the thought sphere by plucking your thoughts out of the ether and creating something beautiful. Write music, write poetry, write plays, write scripts, write books, paint pictures, make sketches, start a podcast, whatever it is. Contribute. You have it in you. And if you don't produce it, it's going to die with you and no one will ever get to experience it. Open up the vessel. Open up the opportunity for yourself and others. Consider signing up for Parrhesia. It is a huge aspect of what I do. Unlock your creativity and use it as a tool to speak to other people and to leave your mark on this world and make it a better place than what you found when you got here or what it is right now. If you think the world sucks, well, you have the power to make it better. That's all I'll say. All right. Round 2 hopefully was a success. Thanks for anybody who watches for the second time. We do appreciate it. If you have any questions about Parrhesia, please let me know right now because the registration window will close next Tuesday. Spots are limited and I want you involved. Don't hesitate to ask, reach out, leave a comment, ask me a question in the comments perhaps, and I will see you in the class and definitely next Monday for another show. All right, much love everyone. Talk to you very soon.